All right, let's talk about modern bodybuilding versus old golden era bodybuilding. The bodybuilding of yesteryear, talking about competitive bodybuilding. Talking about competitive bodybuilding, professional bodybuilding. You have to look at this natty or not phenomenon, this whole phrase, this whole term, natty. You know, that didn't even exist when I was coming up. When I first started lifting, the whole time I was getting big, that didn't occur. Nobody ever said anybody, hey, are you natty? No one ever uttered that. Never uttered that, used that term, employed that term, natty. You know where that came from? It came from fucking internet. See, there wasn't any internet at one time. Wasn't any internet. My whole childhood, well into adulthood. I was in my late 30s. About, right? I was over 35. I was probably 36 or so when the internet came into fruition. And when it initially did, it was nothing like today. Nothing like today. And it's not necessarily better today. I truly believe you had more access to more grassroots, independent, people's creation, people's creativity. When it first came into being, you had a lot of just Joe Blows and Jane Does that just made little web pages up. So you could just Google anything, or I don't even know if it was called Google then. I don't remember what it was called. But you could just put in anything, search for anything. You would get an endless stream of choices, overwhelming stream of choices. And within those choices, you would find dozens of just normal people out there that had a web page. Very amateurish, but that shit was real. You know, that was boots on the ground. That was ground, grassroots, ground level shit. It was real. You don't get that now. We don't have that now. Because what you have now is, and of course they always come along, no matter what it is, they always sell it to you, whether it's your own government or whether it's a commercial industry. They always come along and they sell it to you by saying, hey, we're doing this for you. It's going to make a better experience for you to have. We're doing it for you, right? That they're going to come along and have a search engine and they are going to censor and decide what results you get. You know, now you Google something, you get a few pages, you get several pages of some bullshit, most of it ads. Back in the day, you would get 100 pages and there wouldn't hardly be any ads at all. So it was very cool because you could actually reach out and communicate or share experiences or observe other people all over the fucking place. You know, from anywhere, just regular, normal people. Now it's all polished and refined and fake, and you only see what they determine you can see. Those choices you get when you use a search engine, generally these popular commercial search engines, you only get what they allow you to get. It would go on and on and on and on, but they limit what you're going to see. They control that, but that's for your own good, right? I preferred it the way it was. It was actually pretty amazing initially. I don't look at it that way now. But the whole term fake natty, people that didn't use anabolic steroids or did not augment their testosterone levels and trained and worked out and exercised, lifted weights, but didn't use any of those things, you know, we didn't have a special term for each other. I mean, it was just something you either did it or you didn't do it, just like you either do or you don't do everything else. You drink coffee, you don't drink coffee. You know? The overwhelming or unified stance of the medical community and the scientific community was that anabolic androgenic steroids, what they're really called, AAS, had no benefit. They provided no benefit toward athletic performance. That was the prevailing science rule of the day, medically and scientifically. I know I've mentioned it before, but I'll reiterate it for those that didn't see it. When I was in high school, the team doctor happened to also be my personal physician, my family's personal physician. It was all very grassroots, small neighborhood thing, basically. Communities. Much more community, a sense of community back then than today, I think. Well, he would see to the sports teams in the school, right? You'd have to get your physical, to play sports, whatever have you. Well, if you had a son that wanted to play football, and the kid wanted to play, but he was underweight, he was very small for his age maybe. He was behind in development. You know, he was, as far as physically, smaller, skinnier kid. I mean, I was one of those. Well, the doctor would give you Dianabol. When I was in high school, the doctor would give you Dianabol. Nobody batted an eye. There was no stigma over it. Nothing. Doctor would give you Dianabol so that it would stimulate your appetite and enable you to put on some weight, put on some size, so that maybe next season you could make the team and you could play football. It wasn't even, you know. So, you know, then you have the on the one hand, you have all the busters that are completely without knowledge, screaming, steroids kill you, steroids cause fucking organ failure, steroids, you know, do this, do that, it's a death sentence, suicide, blah, 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 right? But, you know, the reality is that these medications were once just given to children, like, not a big deal, given to kids in school to put on weight. If you worked out initially, you could go to your doctor and tell your doctor, hey, I'd like to get some testosterone because I've read that, because you wouldn't have seen it on the internet, you had to read it in a book in a library, because I've read that it can help me build more muscle. You know, the doctor may in fact say to you, depending on his level of experience, which would be, where would he have a whole bunch of experience dealing with that? He may say to you, well, it will help you put on some size and put on some weight, but it's not particularly known to build muscle or to overdevelop you muscularly. You still have to do all the other things, but it will enable you to process nutrients better and so forth and so on, and help you along the way, sure. And he would give you some testosterone. It was not illegal at all. It was not against the law. Not against the law. And the other thing people fail to understand is, do you even know why there was even a quest for anybody to even develop testosterone into a product that you could use, a consumable product for a man? What, do you think it was for some kind of disease or something? Nope. Yeah, the disease of old age. If you go back and actually study, go back to the 1800s and forwards, you'll find an exhausting amount of men that just, all over the world, that did all kind of craziness in the search to reach out and come up with some kind of concoction or elixir that would elevate your testosterone level so that you wouldn't show the symptoms of older age as a man. That's a fact. Now, I can make a whole video on that and go all the way back to 1800s and tell you names, places, and every other fucking thing. So, but that'd probably be boring for most people. Take my word for it, or else Google, if you can figure it out and find it. So what I'm getting toward is most average Joes today, their use of testosterone is not going to cause organ failure. My opinion, history bears it out. Not a doctor. In my experience, there are things you look out for. There are things, potential side effects that are negative, like with any drug. Christ, you see commercials for drugs today, they rattle off the potential side effects so quickly you can barely keep up. Everything from bleeding out of your fucking ass to fucking blindness to death. All these medications, nobody bats an eye. But they get hung up on this thing because your esteem's wrapped up in it, be honest. The little busters. So when you critique somebody and tell them all this organ failure life or any this nonsense, get an education first, get educated. Because your average Joe isn't doing anything near, not a fraction, of what you are seeing on that professional bodybuilding stage today. The guys from yesteryear, they're still around. Ones that have passed have largely passed of old age. Frank Zane's still alive and healthy. Franco Columbu, still alive and healthy. Arnold Schwarzenegger, still alive and healthy. Robbie Robinson, still alive and healthy. Where are you getting your... There's no correlation to the shit that you're seeing or you're saying and what actually bears out as just real life. Because they weren't taking any of the shit these guys today are taking. Back then, even when I started, we had a small handful of things to choose from. Compounds, drugs, that were typically, explored. And not everybody explored every one. There were options, alternatives. Today, never-ending list, can't even keep up with it. I have no idea how many different things there are. Research chemicals and this and that and Christ. What do you expect is going to happen? Of course these guys are killing themselves. Today, to me, it's obscene. It's an actual drug game. You know that song Dope Show by Marilyn Manson? I don't even like Marilyn Manson. But the shit that these guys are taking today and putting in their bodies, is it any surprise that you're going to see cancers, you're going to see heart failures, you're going to see liver failures, you're going to see kidney failures, you're going to see all these things. And if they're that reckless to even take half of this shit just because they want to become the number one guy, at the upper echelons of pro bodybuilding, the top guys, then do you think that they care about their blood pressure running a little bit high or hematocrit's a little bit high? You think they're really that particular? Most of them, by and large? No. If they were that cautious, they wouldn't even take half the shit they're taking. Wouldn't even put it in their body. So don't confuse what the average guy is doing, the average man is doing that has to go out and work for a living, support his fucking family, pay his bills, make his way through the world, and he decides to augment his test levels because he's getting old and he doesn't feel good. And because the latest fucking information out just hit the presses is that test levels have dropped 30% in the last 15 fucking years. And here's what should be alarming to you little busters, you little bitches, is that, and if the shoe fits, wear it. If I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to you. Is that the age group? They looked at men from 15 years old to 39. All right? So that's all I got to say on that.